Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the B2B Intent Data Goldmine, turn hidden signals into recurring revenue. So today is a topic that I'm particularly passionate about, and it's something I see over and over across our clients and companies where I work for. So I wanted to really dive into this particular subject, and I think it's going to be, I hope it's going to be very interesting. So let's proceed. So first of all, very briefly about me and why am I talking about this topic today. I'm the founder of SaaSMQL, which I started in 2018. But before then, I worked for four different venture-funded companies in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and I was leading the demand generation team, enterprise marketing teams, and so my goal was always to generate pipeline for the sales team and help them closing new deals, bringing new enterprise logos in particular. So what we do at SaaSMQL after that is we are focusing on ABM. We help SaaS companies implement and orchestrate targeted ABM programs and campaigns. And we work with more than 80 companies so far and generating millions of dollars in pipeline and recurring revenue. We are a HubSpot solution partner, so we can really integrate with HubSpot and help you scale these campaigns. And with that, let's start with today's topic. So we're going to cover the different types of intent signals and how they are categorized. Then we're going to look on how you can identify those intent signals, particularly in your CRM, whatever that be. It could be Salesforce, HubSpot, even in Marketo or any other CRM for that matter. Then we're going to talk about how you can activate these intent signals with targeted campaigns, and then I'll show you some examples of these campaigns from our internal efforts. So let's start. So why I wanted to cover this topic today. This is something that is very common across many of our clients, as well as potential clients that we talk to, and other companies. And what I believe is every company, even probably the smallest one, as long as they have at least product market fit, they are sitting on a gold mine of potential opportunities, pipeline, and revenue within their CRM. And the larger the company, the later stage the company, the more data is available. And I believe that you can easily generate millions of dollars in pipeline this month for this quarter just by looking at this data that you already have. Instead, a lot of times the focus is on engaging new logos, cold accounts, uh, bringing new opportunities from ad campaigns, etc. And that's obviously very important to do every single quarter. But every time you want to keep a close eye at your own data, because the engagement data, the intent signals that you have are very valuable, but they're going to expire. So the more you wait to act on them, the more they're going to become cold, and then they stop being so valuable. And so that's why it's always priority for us, particularly when we work with new clients, is to ask, okay, what data do we have available? What data can we leverage for the targeted campaigns before we go on and start targeting cold accounts? And so you can have HubSpot, Salesforce, Marketo, depending on how you are set up. Typically, this intent data sits a lot on the marketing automation side, but some of that is also on the CRM. But you typically want to look at both. And so, how do we categorize intent signals? Because there is a lot of talk around intent signals and what they are and what they mean. But typically, there are two types of intent signals. The first one I don't call is called third-party intent signals, and those are actions and reads perform across the web or other websites or indirectly. So this is basically something that will tell you or correlates to certain accounts showing intent either on your particular solution or on your category of solutions. So, for example, with Bombora data, you will see someone that is doing research on, I don't know, some type of cybersecurity or business analytics, and if you happen to offer that solution, that's perfect fit, and you want to target that account. So that's kind of like this intent scoring that you can pull on third-party websites and try to track. But it will give you an idea of what accounts seem to be showing intent in on that. But what we're talking today, and what I believe is something that can really generate a ton of pipeline very quickly, is the first party intent signal. So that's what is happening on your website, on your assets, on your content, on your with your sales team, on your offline events, or anything that you are directly responsible for. And so these intent signals needs to be collected, and many of them are collected automatically, but some of them you have to set them up. But then what happens is many times they just sit there, unused, unleveraged, and so they nobody is acting on those intent signals. And it's something you want to do regularly and ideally programmatically, because if you're just doing it as a one-off, one time a year, it's probably you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so the other distinction on intent signals is you have account level intent signals and content level intent signals. For example, you might see with tracking anonymous visits that a certain company came to your website through reverse IP, but you don't know what company, sorry, you don't know who from that company actually visited your website. You can see what pages were visited, how long they stay on your website, where they arrived from, but you don't know who the person is most of the time. And so you still have a good chunk of information there that you can leverage, you can activate, but it's not as powerful as obviously content level intent signals. So they are very specific. You have demo request, content download, webinar registration, people stopping by your booth, etc., etc. So those are actual persons that you can communicate directly with. You can target directly, you can retarget, you can approach. And if they happen to be the right titles, that's going to be extremely valuable. So examples of this different type of intent signals. So going back to the first party intent signals, which is the topic of this webinar, we have, starting from the top, demo request, free trials. Those are obvious intent signals. Those are as good as it gets, I would say. But there are cases that those demo requests don't turn into anything. Maybe they don't even show up to the demo. What do you do with those, right? That's a question. I see that many times, that some people, sometimes they don't take any action on no shows from demo request, and they are qualified leads, they're qualified accounts, target accounts. Then you have content downloads, webinar registration, ratio leads, another kind of subject that is a little bit on a gray area. I saw companies that collected all these ratio leads, but they were all sitting in a Google sheet, and no sales rep or marketing team was acting on them. And that's another potential gold mine. Those are people that stop by your booth for whatever reason, right? They could be cold or warm. Maybe they were doing research, they are interested, but you have to act on them, not just the week or two after the trade shows. We personally have clients that we closed 3 years after they saw us at a trade show, and they told us that they came back 3 years later after we continue retarget, nurture them, and they say, "Oh yeah, we saw you at the 2022 SaaSter, for example, where we were sponsoring." So that can happen. So you don't toss them away. You have to nurture them. You have to constantly reactivate them, and then we're going to see how. And outbound email replies, that's another thing, that sometimes this data sits on the sales rep inbox and is not being pushed into the CRM. But those replies can range through, like, yes, I'm interested, those okay, maybe they get pushed. But what about those that are like, right now is not the right timing, or we don't have the budget this year, or we're finishing other initiatives, whatever that may be. I saw many type of replies those are still sign of engagement. They could be reactivated regularly, and so you need to be tracking all of those somehow into your CRM, marketing automation, etc. Anonymous website visits, we're going to look into this as well. Lost opportunities, that's another gold mine. We have a lot of success stories with our clients where the first thing we did was a lost opportunity reactivation campaign through, obviously, with the ABM approach, always looking at the target accounts that are within those lost opportunities, always with a multi-channel approach, but is that can generate almost immediate pipeline, especially if we target it in the right way. And then when we look at the third party intent signals, I talked about the Bombora intent score, about doing research on third party website. You have G2 and Capterra visits. If you have a profile there, you can see who is visiting your page, but also your competitor page. Very interesting to know and something you can act upon. New hiring or job post, that's many times kind of like showing an intent. If you sell a cybersecurity solution and someone just hire a chief information security officer, that's probably something that you want to keep a close eye on. Same thing with fundraising. If you target VC funded startups, customer transitioning, that's another interesting data. That, for example, user gems is a solution that is famous to track who from your customer just switch company, change to another company. Those are normally very important leads to target, because if someone really loved your solution and was uh, used to adopt it at their current company and they change company, they want to probably implement the same. That happens a lot. Negative reviews for competitors, very interesting, as well as technographic signals. Like someone just bought HubSpot and your company integrates with HubSpot, that's, could show in some intent there as well. So these are the distinction. Now let's look more closely to the first party intent signals. So what do you want to collect? This is the first step. You want to make sure you are collecting that data, because if not, there's nothing that you can really do. So you're most likely obviously collecting demo requests, content download if you have gated content, obviously. If not, if you're tracking, for example, someone that clicks on your nurturing email and goes and visited a blog, that's also kind of content visits more than downloads, but it's still something you want to track. Webinar registration, obviously, these are more top of funnel signals, but it's something you want to still act upon. Then we have the lost opportunities. That's easy to track. What is not easy to track and you should be tracking is the reason why they were lost. Because sometimes just seeing that there's an opportunity that was closed lost, you can see at what stage it was closed lost. Was it the initial stage? It was after proposal? That's also important to know. But the reason typically has to be tracked somehow manually by the rep. And for example, HubSpot forces you to enter the loss reason, and you should be forcing your reps to enter that. That could be in a drop down field or open test, doesn't matter, but you want to track that. So, for example, was it because they didn't have budget? Was because they went with a competitor? Was because they just didn't respond? They kind of ghosted your sales team? That will allow you to create more targeted campaigns after. For example, if you were missing a feature and now you have it, those are opportunities you can go back immediately and and launch a campaign. You're probably going to generate significant pipeline right away. Ratio leads, we talked about it. Track what ratio they attended. We see this a lot. Please don't just track they attended a ratio. Have ideally the date and the ratio name attached to these records, to these contacts, so that you can continuously target them and reference that ratio even a year later. Because if not, they're going to become just generic outreach, generic campaign that you're not going to see a lot of success. Outbound replies, we talked about it. You want to feed them into your CRM and marketing automation, and then the engagement from your marketing email. You also want to track, I didn't put it in this list, but I'm going to talk it next, is the anonymous visits. You can do it with ZoomInfo, you can do it through HubSpot, you can do it with many other tools, but you want to see what companies are coming to your website. And then once you have all these different intent signals, you have these different records, you probably have multiple CSV files or multiple lists in HubSpot. Now you want to match them against your target account list to see if you have, for example, 1,500 target accounts that are divided in different tiers and different segments. You want to see which of your target accounts are completely cold. You have no intent signals whatsoever, even the smallest intent signal, or which one are showing a lot. Maybe they did stop, someone stopped at a trade show, someone else downloaded content, someone else replied to your rep. Like those accounts are going to be scoring high. And companies like Six Sense, for example, help a lot to kind of put these signals together, so you're not doing manually, but there are multiple ways of doing this. And so you match against the target account, but now you want to prioritize these intent signals. Like I said, they're not all the same. And the way you prioritize it is you always want to start from the bottom of the funnel, from closest to sales, and move up, because the closer they are to sales, obviously the more valuable these intent signals are. So you always want to start by retargeting lost opportunities. Look at your previous demo requests, and any kind of inbound intent signal that was close to a sales opportunity, basically. Potentially, you could also retarget churn customers. Those are other ones that are very, very valuable. If they have to be taken with a certain cautious, because you don't know why they churn, or like, I mean, you're tracking it, but not every churn customer can be retargeted. But many times we do upsell or cross sell campaign to existing customers. Those are obviously very valuable, but in this case I'm kind of stopping to bring a new pipeline, not from customer marketing. But so after demo request, we go threshold leads, email replies. Those were showing maybe some interest, some intent to the actual solution, to wanted to have a meeting with the sales team. They stop by your booth, but they are not an opportunity yet. And then you go up and up on the funnel with email clicks, content downloads, and finally anonymous visits. So these are people and companies that stop by your website, people that stop by your website from companies that you're targeting, but nobody filled out a form. They didn't show any particular interest percent. Maybe they visited a pricing page, which is something you can track and is very valuable, but it's still not necessarily an expression of interest. So they are aware of your solution, and you want to push them down the funnel through activation campaign, which is what we're gonna look at right now. So the first thing we want to look is activation campaigns for threshold leads. I put this first because obviously a lot of our clients, a lot of companies in SaaS, they sponsor thresholds. There are many different conferences every month. They cost a lot of money. It requires a lot of investment to have a booth at these companies. And so every additional opportunity that you can bring from those leads is gonna help a lot in terms of ROI, even from the initial threshold investment. So here I'm showing one example of a workflow that you can set up. But in this case, I basically put, like, you have email going out to your old threshold leads, then you send the package, then you send more emails, then maybe another package, then more emails, then a LinkedIn message. This is an example of a flow. I already mentioned the fact that we had success with leads from threshold that we sponsored 3 years before. So that can happen. So don't give up on your threshold leads 6 months later or even 2 months later. You want to always retarget, and obviously the closer the threshold, the more of success you're going to have for sure. But that doesn't mean that they're trash. And you should always reference that threshold in your communication. That's why you want to have clean data on what ratio they attended. Did they stop by the booth, or they did not stop by the booth, or maybe they were just on the attendee list. And then if it's a recent ratio, in your communication, your messaging, even in the direct mail, you should carry the same campaign theme, the same messaging, even the same visual if possible. And I'm going to show you an example of this. This is our trade show that we sponsor, our campaigns, our activation ABM campaign. So you can see the trade show booth on the left. The theme here is the secret sauce. We call it secret sauce campaign. So we know the secret sauce to ABM success. And then after the trade show, we sent out this package. And then once the package arrived, we sent out the emails, and then we have multiple communication going. We have content sending out, but it's all coming together, and this is done periodically. And then obviously we're not going to continue carrying the secret sauce theme. Later on, we're going to change with the more recent theme that we have, but we continue retargeting trade show leads even from 2 years ago, from a long time ago. And this is one example of a flow that you can set up. And then you can add obviously the LinkedIn outreach, cold call if you want, and add more touches. You always want to adopt a multi-channel strategy with enterprise mid-market prospects. If you just send out emails, yeah, you're going to have some success, but probably just a percentage of what you would have if you have a multi-channel strategy. The other example is the lost opportunities. So this is a reactivation campaign. These were already active leads, active accounts, and they were lost. And ideally, you want to target opportunities that were lost more than 6 months ago. So you don't have a rep that lost an opportunity last month and you go and retarget now. That's probably not only a waste of time, but also you might irritate the contact and the champion there. So, you retarget all the opportunities to see how things are going. You have that kind of messaging across your communication. You want to show what is new with your solution, learn more about their plans. And you can be very targeted if you have collected why the opportunities was close lost, when obviously it was close lost, and you always have everyone that was included in that opportunity, meaning the sales cycle. So if your sales team had meetings with, for example, the head of finance, and then the VP of HR, and then I don't know, the IT manager, then you should have all three so you can include everyone. But at the very minimum, you want to have who was the champion, who was the main contact with each opportunity that you can reach out to. Sometimes, obviously, that person might no longer be at the company. So in that case, you have to go with whoever is on that role now. But you're still going to reference your conversation with that person. That's how you're going to make it very, very relevant. And you always want to prioritize these lost opportunities. We have clients that have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of lost opportunities. So where do you start, right? How do you prioritize? So you go by dollar amount for those that have pipeline attached to it, and then you look for the lost reason, and those that ended in no decision are probably better, as well as like those with no budget probably are the worst ones. Those that went with a competitor are going to be some of the hardest to pull back unless there is a reason, or maybe they didn't have a good experience. But that's how you can prioritize this. One example from our flow, you can see this kind of retargeting email here. This is one of our packages that we sent out to lost opportunities with some nice gift and some nice other additional information. Then we create a dedicated landing page where they can see the new feature, new services, new offers that we have. So these are some examples on how you can set this up. As long as you have a clear list of contacts and not just the accounts. If not, you're going to have to pull a brand new list of contacts based on your ICP, and then your messaging is going to change a bit. It's going to be more like we have been speaking with your colleague about XYZ. And then another campaign that is actually very, very fruitful, very ROI positive is retargeting anonymous visitors. So this is something we have automated, obviously, and we keep track um, on across multiple dashboard and multiple reports. But we generate traffic to our website from target accounts mostly because we have campaigns that are running against list of target accounts. And this is something we're going to talk about in a different webinars on how do you generate these intent signals from cold accounts from scratch. But now we focus on those that are already coming to our website. And so you can track these anonymous visits through different solution where they're going to look at their IP address and do a reverse IP, and they can see the companies that visited your website. You don't know exactly who. I know there are some potential tools that do that, but they have a lot of privacy limitation. And so, at the very least, you can see the company XYZ visited your website. You can see what pages they visited, how long they stay on your website, and when they did it. And so if you pull those companies and then you build a contact list that match your target buyer persona, buyer community, and then you want to reference the fact that someone from their team visited your website. Maybe it was them, but maybe it was a colleague. Most likely is someone that you target because it's difficult that someone from HR is going to go visit a cybersecurity website unless they're trying to sell to them. But again, someone from HR probably won't. So it's likely that if it is a lead, if it is there is actual intent and potential engagement opportunity, is going to be from some one of the roles that you are targeting from those lists. And that's how you structure this campaign. And you can see an example here. This is the screenshot from our Zoom info tracking where you can see this is pretty recent, September 6, September 5, 3, etc. Um, and you might say, well, some of these companies maybe are trying to sell to you. Yes, that's true. But you can also see what pages they visit if you go into the details and how long they stay. So there are pages that someone who is trying to sell to you probably won't go and look. And then those that look at certain content, blogs, etc., they're probably more interested. They're not trying. There's not the sales rep trying to sell to you, but it's actually someone that could buy your solution. And it's even easier if you have a vertical type solution. For example, if your software is targeting hotel chains or independent hotels, and independent hotels come to your website, it's very likely that it's not because it's trying to sell to you, but it's actually a potential prospect, so a potential customer. So that's something it gets easier for those that have a very targeted solution. And so same thing here, we have a automated email that goes out to those people with some particular variables, and then we ship a package to them as well. Kind of again leveraging the fact that they recently, someone from the company recently came to our website, to our SaaSMQL website. This is something we do for our clients as well. This is a very interesting campaign. It's not something that is going to immediately generate pipeline like you can do with your lost opportunity campaigns or some of the other first party intent. This is probably one of the weakest intent signal, but it's something that if you run programmatically and regularly uh, the entire year, you're going to see a very good ROI. You're going to see all opportunities that you would have not probably generated if you were not tracking these signals here. So I want to summarize the key points of today. So if you need to generate certain pipeline, you need to hit a certain pipeline goal by the end of Q3, probably late, but Q4 is the first thing you want to do is look at every piece of data that you have sitting there. So your first party intent signals. Then you want to pull everything, you want to prioritize them based on funnel stage, starting from the bottom of the funnel first, moving up to the very top, the awareness stage, but always focus on anything that is closer to sales, closer to opportunities and to revenue. That's going to be way, way more valuable. That's where you can invest more budget, even for example spending on direct mail like we do, to engage them, because those could be 15 or 20% odds to close already, because they are one step away from becoming an opportunity. And if your win rate from opportunity is 20%, how much valuable they are, and so how much you can spend to engage them. Then obviously you want to match these intent signals with your target account. And I don't mean just like your tier one account necessarily. You're going to match them across your entire ICP, but also your ICP, your TAM, call it, depending on your definition. But any accounts that you can sell to that is a potential customer, you want to map them against. But then obviously you always prioritize by tier of accounts. That's an obvious thing. And make sure you are tracking this data. That's probably the important part, because that's something you cannot go back and do it later. So if you're not tracking some of these signals like anonymous visitors or email replies from outbound campaigns that the reps are doing through Outreach, SalesLoft, HubSpot, or anything, or you're not tracking those that are replies to their cold calls or LinkedIn messages, please start doing that, because that's going to be very interesting data to retarget, as well as the offline events, trade shows, VIP dinners, wine tasting events, anything like that. You should always be collecting the list, scan their badge, and then push them into your HubSpot or Salesforce, attach it to the trade show or the event campaign, so that you can go back and you have every information about it, even 2 years from now. And important part that you want to always remember, don't just send emails. A lot of time I hear, oh yeah, we're doing retargeting, and it's always emails. There is so many emails you can send us to a person at some point before they not only stop being interested, but they might unsubscribe and block you. So you want to kind of diversify your approach and target them across multiple channels. Emails is fine, but you also want to do LinkedIn messages. You want to do the direct mail part. You want to do, cold calls if it's something that you are seeing success with, but really diversify that. And there are not many channels that allow you to target a specific person, a specific company. And so you want to use them all, and you want to use them in a cohesive way. So you don't want to have one message coming from LinkedIn message, and then a different messaging coming from email, and then a different look and feel and theme on the direct mail. And like, it should be all going together and work together to engage or re-engage this prospect and these people showing intent. And with that, I want to close this presentation. We have time for one question, if there is any. Let me see. Yeah, actually, we do have one question, which is, how are you tracking anonymous visitors? Okay, let's go back. So I mentioned how we are doing it, which is ZoomInfo. We have a script on our website. That's how it works. I know there are other tools that do the same. HubSpot now does it through Breeze, which is after they acquire Clearbit. There are other, but I know they're changing now. So there are other platforms that can do that. To be honest, we always done very well with ZoomInfo, and we have seen a lot of success from this campaign. So it's a simple script that you add to every page, landing page on your website, and then you can see this type of report. And this is something that not only can happen daily, but then with ZoomInfo, obviously we can automate a lot of these signals going back into HubSpot. And you wanna you wanna set up this type of campaigns. You're gonna see that a lot of our email campaigns have 3 steps, 3 emails, and that's it. If those don't work, then you can send another 3 email sequence, kind of different messaging. I normally don't like a 7, 8, 9 email sequence. Is usually not the best approach. And this campaign has worked and is working really, really well for us. Again, you're capturing a, an intent signal that is happening on your website that you might have ignored completely, and you want to act fairly quickly. Obviously, if you go back 6 months or a year here, that's not going to work. So here is something you want to do every week. Whoever came to your website this week, retarget them as quick as possible, because that's, it's such an initial signal is really at the top of the funnel that if you let it expire, it's not going to be worth the same. Perfect. So with that, I want to close this presentation. Thanks everyone for attending it, and I hope to see you at the next webinar. Thank you.